Hello everyone, welcome back to the computer fundamentals classes. In previous class we discussed about the evolution of computers. What are the types of computers available in 1914 before 1940. So there are mainly we are divided into two parts. One is before 1940 and one is after 1940. Okay, the whatever the before 1940, those are called as the evolution of computers. Okay, now we are going to discuss in this class. We are going to learn the computer generations. Okay, or we can say generation of computers. We are going to learn in this class. So let us study the what you mean by the generation of computers. You know already the computer is an electronic device. So in that device they are used so many hardware components and along with the software component. Using both components we can run the computers, right? So now we'll discuss those things in generation of computers. So what do you mean by generation of computers? Okay, so let us discuss one by one. The generation of computers, right? So generally the generation is a computer terminology is a change in technology a computer is being used. Okay, that is called a generation. That means the how computer get changed from 1942 until now. It may be in hardware components, it may be in software components. How they are changed from the 1942 till days. Okay, how the computers are used in the 1914 years. Okay, in the year 1914, how they are used. In now, you know already how they are using the computers, what are the components are used, okay, what are the different softwares are using. So let us discuss one by one from 1942 till now. Okay, initially the generation term was used to distinguish between the varying hardware technologies. It is called a generation. What do you mean by generation here? Generation term was used to distinguish between, it is differentiate between the different hardware technologies. How different hardware technology used in the different generations. Okay, nowadays the generation includes both hardware and software technology. Okay, which is together make up an entire computer system. You know already. Nowadays we are using computers. Okay, different computer we are using. Okay, laptop, desktop, handy computer. So those computers are made by the hardware and software components. Together we can make it as a computer. We can say this is a computer system using both hardware and software technology. Okay, there are 5 generations known till date. Okay, there are 5 generations. How many generations? There are 5 generations until now. We know. So guys, just listen what I am telling. There are 5 generations. Okay, when I am explaining some important things, just don't sit ideal. Okay, or don't sit ideal. Okay, just take a pen and book. Just note it. Whatever I am telling is the important things. Just note it down. Okay, don't sit ideal. Don't sit normal. Just don't watching the like movie. Okay, this is online classes. Just you have to concentrate what I am telling to the telling important concept to you. Okay, just you have to note down. So now there are 5 computer generations. How many computer generations? There are 5 computer generations. Okay, each generation, there are 5 generations, you know. In each generation has been discussed in details. Okay, we are going to discuss in details in each generations along with their time period in which year they are using the generation. For example, first generation, in which year they are using the first generation computers, in second generation computer in which year. So those things we are going to discuss in this class, and also characteristics or features, the what are the components they are used in the first generation, second generation up to now. Okay, so let us study these all things: computer generation, or we can say generation of computers. So generation, normally the generation in computer talk provides a framework for the growth of computer, the how computer growth up to now from 1942 2020. Okay, industry based around key technology development. The what are the features added, what are the new technology added, what are the new components, what are the new hardware and software technology used in the generation we will discuss now. So we know there are 5 generations. The first generation, there are totally 5 generations in until now. Okay, the first generation, the period is 1942 to 1945. In this year, the between 1942 1955, those peoples they are used the first generation computers. Okay, and second generation they are used in the year 1955, from 1955 to 1964. Okay, in this year, in this year 1955 to 1964, they are used the second generation. Okay, and third generation used in the 1964 and 1975. In this year, they are used third generation. And fourth generation, some people are telling the fourth generation nowadays. Nowadays also we are using fourth generation. No problem. Okay, here also nowadays we are using fourth generation computers. Okay, but according to syllabus or book, the year 1975 to 1989 they are used fourth generation. Okay, the from 1989 onwards they are used fifth generation to present. Till date 1989 to till date we are using fifth generation computers. Okay, so let us discuss one by one the how first generation computers are made, the second generation computers are made, third, fourth up to fifth we are going to discuss in this class. Okay, so first one, the first generation. Okay, in the year 1942 and 1955, in between the first generation computers are used. Okay, the how computers are generated, how computers are made, how computers are first computer generation, the first computers generations are made, we will discuss now. So here only we are used a hardware components. Okay, in first generation they are used the hardware components like vacuum tubes. Okay, so in this first generation they are used the hardware components like vacuum tubes and punch cards. Okay, so what is the use of vacuum tubes? So what is the use of punch cards? Okay, so vacuum tubes are the tube. This is like a tube, you know already. Tubes, vacuum tubes are the tubes as the basic components for memory. You know already memory. What is the use of memory? It can store the data for the further processing. That is called as memory. So in this generation, in first generation, in those days, for memory they are using vacuum tubes. Store the information like, okay, and circuitry for CPU processing. The central process unit. Okay, if you want to process any data, we need again vacuum tubes for circuitry for CPU. these tubes like electrical bulbs. I'll show you how vacuum tubes are. Okay, see, these are the vacuum tubes. These using these tubes, okay, this is like a bulb, you know already. This is like a bulb. Okay, these tubes like electric bulbs produce a lot of heat. Okay, so using these tubes, see, these are the types of the vacuum tubes. Okay, so using these tubes we can store the data like memory and for circuitry for information processing like CPU. Okay, so these are the run on the electrical or current that can produce, the vacuum tube produce a lot of heat. Okay, you know already what I mean by heat, lot of heat. In your home bulbs also that produce a little bit heat. So like this, in that generation they are using vacuum tubes. Those bulbs or vacuum tubes are produce a lot of heat, and the installation used to fuse frequently. Okay, when you are using vacuum tubes, must and should have to use the fuse for frequently. Okay, because it get damaged the frequently, because it produces the lot of heat, and therefore they were very expensive, and only large organizations were able to afford it. Okay, it means when they are using vacuum tubes, it is very costly in that time. In first generation, these are the very costly, and it takes lot of size for installation. It takes entire room. For example, in your house or in your home, there is a like room, bedroom like, okay, so or any classroom, it takes entire room for one computer, because thousands of vacuum tubes are used in that computer. Okay, so for that this is very expensive or very costly, and the only large organization, large company were able to use that one. Okay, so now we'll discuss some features. Okay, it supported machine language. Okay, so this computers or first generation computers are supported only machine language, and it had slow performance, because so slow means it is a fast machine in that generation. Okay, compared to now, this is slow. Okay, it occupied large size. When you use vacuum tubes for the memory, it can take thousands of vacuum tubes for the maker that computers for memory, that occupied, that takes a large size of rooms due to use of vacuum tubes. Right? When you using the thousands of vacuum tubes, automatically it takes some large space to install your computer. Okay, and it can use thousands of vacuum tubes. The power consumption of these computers are very high. See, you know already the normal generally in your home you are using two bulbs. Okay, when you are using two bulbs, it takes 2 watt. Oh, sorry, 10 and 10, 20 watts. Okay, so when you are using two bulbs, it takes some little bit the current and it generates. Okay, and after that, if you are using 1000 or 100 bulbs in your home, it automatically generates the very high bill. Okay, like this. In those first generation, they are using thousands vacuum tubes for memory. The power consumption, it takes more power, more current for the computers for processing, and very high. Okay, it had a poor strongly capacity. Okay, there is a poor capacity in that situation, and when it is used vacuum tubes, that generation generates a lot of the heat, because there is the thousand vacuum tubes they are used in the first generation, because that generates the very lot of heat. Okay, that purpose they are get damaged. The purpose of the heat they are get damaged. So for that you have to install the different vacuum tubes which is get damaged in place. That place you have to install another vacuum tube. So that is the drawback. Okay, and the memory, how much memory they are using? The memory was the 4000 bits. Okay, this is like 10 MB. Okay, less than 10 MB. You know already. The 1 MB is equal to 1024 kilobytes. 1 kilobyte is equal to 1024 bits. Okay, just you have to divide that one, then you will get the size of the memory. So like this, only little very small size of memory they are used for the storing the data. Nowadays 120 GB, okay, 1 TB, terabyte we are using nowadays, but those days they are using small size of memory. Okay, less than 1 MB, 2 MB, like this they are using. Okay, data input, how they are providing the data? Using punch cards and paper tapes. Okay, punch cards are the paper, using that paper they are reading the inputs. And the examples, that means in that generation, the what are the computers are there? Okay, one is ENIAC and UNIVAC, okay, and IBM 701. Okay, these are the example for those type of computers. The next one, this is a vacuum tubes, you know. Okay, this is a first generation computer. This is like this. Okay, this is a first generation computer. So it takes entire room. Okay, this is not a KEB. This is not any current circuitry. Okay, so this is the one type of computer in those days. It takes entire room. This is only one computer in first generation. Okay, so second generation. Okay, now we will discuss second generation. In the year from 1955 to 1964, they are used second generation. So why they are called second generation? Apart from those drawbacks, to overcome that drawback, they are developed second generation. What is the drawback here? The vacuum tubes, the thousands of vacuum tubes they are used. Sometimes they get damaged. Okay, because they are very costly, expensive. It takes large space. So those are called as drawbacks. To overcome that drawbacks, they are created or developed second generation computers. Now let us discuss the second generation computers. Okay, so in second generation computers, the several advanced technology they are used. Okay, several advanced technology. What they are used? In that they are used transistor, the hardware, like they are used transistors and magnetic tapes for the data stores. Okay, and what is the use of transistor? Okay, we will discuss now. So when you are using transistors, they take the smaller size of place to install, and automatically it get faster. Okay, automatically it is faster. Now, and it is very faster, and it is efficient to use the computers. Okay, and in this generation they are used transistor where used that were cheaper, because this is cheaper. So for that they are used transistor. Okay, and it takes less power to perform any task, more compact in size, more reliable and faster than the first generation, because that we are used transistor. Okay, so in first generation they are made by the vacuum tubes, in second generation they are made by the transistor. Okay, so in this generation magnetic cores were used as the primary memory. See here, there are two hardwares we are using, transistor and magnetic tapes. So magnetic tapes are used to store the data like primary memory, and magnetic tape and magnetic disks as a secondary storage device for the data storage. So in this generation, assembly language and high level programming language they are used like Fortran and COBOL were used. Okay, so now these are some features. What are features? When they are using the transistor and like magnetic takes, they get faster. This is very faster, okay, to perform any task, and it is a smaller size. Okay, it is in smaller size and reliable and energy efficient. It takes less power, okay, than the previous generation, you know already, and less costly because these are the very small, because this is less costly than the previous generation. Okay, and here transistors are provided to be better electronic switching device than the vacuum tubes. Okay, so this is what the transistor. Now what is the memory size? I'll show you transistor. See, these are the transistor. Okay, these are the smaller size, and okay, some people are writing a 56 and 63. Okay, here we are discussing according to the book the 95 to 64. Okay, just 55 to 64. See, this is the small size computer in second generation. Okay, so this is a second generation computer. So now, so what is the memory of second generation? The capacity of memory was 32,000 bits. If you divide it by, that is in 1024 bits, you will get KB. Again, you are dividing that into 1024, you will get MB. Okay, less than 10 MB. Okay, so that is called as the size of the memory. Automatically, it is increased from the previous generation. In previous generation, we are used only the 4,000 bits, but here 32,000 bits. Again, the capacity of memory is increased in second generation. How they are used the inputs, how they are provide the inputs data through punch cards. They are providing the input data through the punch cards. Okay, using punch cards they are providing the input like 10, 20, whatever it may be. Okay, so these are the examples of the those days computers. One is Honeywell 400, CDC 1604, IBM 7030. Okay, these are the those days computers, second generation computers examples. Okay, these are the computer names. Okay, so these are the computer names. So this is called as second generation. This is example of the second generation. These are the transistor. These are the second generation computer, because it takes a low space, low power consumption, low costly, okay, and faster in that generation. Okay, second generation. Now we are going to discuss the third generation. This is very important. Third generation. Why? Because here we are used IC chips, integrated circuits. Okay, in third generation we are used integrated circuits. Okay, so who is developer, who is created, who is invented integrated circuits? That is the Clary Kibble and Robert Noyce. They invented the first integrated circuits. I'll tell you what you mean by integrated circuits. Okay, who is the developer of integrated circuit? They may ask in exam. Sometimes it is they may ask in exam what is integrated circuits and who is invented. That is the invented by Clary Kipley and Robert Noyce invented the first integrated circuits. Now, what do you mean by integrated circuits? We can say this is called as IC chips. We can say IC, integrated circuits, are consisting of several components like transistors, resistors and capacitors placed on the single chips. Okay, so now we can say the integrated circuits, it can contain or it is on components, okay, electrical components that contains the more than two components on one single chip. That is called as integrated circuits. Like it is consisting of several components, like it can contain transistors, resistors and capacitors placed on the only single chips. Okay, in one single chips we can place the more than two components on that. That is called as integrated. See, the name says that integrated. We are placing the more than one components on one components. That is called as integrated circuits. Okay, so in that third generation year, that is called as 1964 to 1975. In this year they are used third generation. Okay, the next one is third generation. They are used integrated circuits. So what are the hardware components they are used rather than the first generation and second generation? In first generation they are used vacuum tubes. In second generation they are used transistor. In third generation they are used integrated circuits. So it is made from the semiconductor materials, and it creates large capacity disk and magnetic tapes. Okay, so here they are used integrated circuits. So initially the integrated circuits are contained only about 10 or 20 components. Suppose that circuit, see, I'll tell you, see here, this is a circuit. This is called as IC. If it is, this circuit contains only 10 components on this circuit. This integrated circuit only contains 10 components. That is called as the small scale integration, 10 or 20. If it is that circuit contains 10 or 20 components, that is called as the small scale integration, that is SSI. In exam, in 2 marks they ask full, what is the full form of SSI? That is called as small scale integration. Small scale integration. After that, later it contains about 100 components. That integrated circuit that contains, in that we can store the 100 up to 100 components like resistors, transistors, capacitors, anything. Like different components we can store in that integrated circuit. That is called as the medium scale integration. That is called as the medium scale integration. That is called as the MSI. That is called as MSI. So these are the two important things in third generation. One is small scale integration, one is medium scale integration. So what are the features? Okay, rather than the first generation and second generation. So this is very faster than the second and first generation. This is very smaller because in one chip we can place the more than 100 components in one integrated circuit. It is more reliable and very cheaper than the previous generation. It is very easy to use. Okay, here this computer supports time sharing operating system. That means there are many tasks running inside the computer that can share the time for each task. That is called time sharing operating system. So what is the memory capacity? Here 1,28,000 bits. Okay, and data input, they are used keyboards. Now it is comes the keyboards. In third generation they are used keyboards. you know already, keyboards. Using that keyboard, that is a device, input device, we can provide the inputs and also monitor for the output. If you want to generate any output, they are used monitors. And what are the examples for the third generation computers, right? So one is IBM 360 or 370, CDC 6600, PDP 8 or 11. These are the those days third generation computers. These are the examples, right? So now this is an example. See, it takes low space rather than the first generation or second generation. Okay, these are the third generation computers, right? So now let us move to the next generation, the fourth generation. Okay, what is the fourth generation? Here in this fourth generation, the year is, the time period is 1975 to 1989. In between they are used fourth generation, but some people are saying nowadays also we are using fourth generation. Okay, no problem. Here also some people are using fourth generation, some people are using fifth generation. But when you talk about the fourth generation, okay, just this we'll discuss that one. In fourth generation, the average number of electronic components packed on the silicon chip doubled each year after 1965. After third generation, that get doubled. Double means in one chip we can install the 100,000 of 1000 components in one integrated circuits or silicon chips. That is called as the electronic components packed on silicon chip doubled each year after 1965. So those are doubled in fourth generation. So this process lead to the era of large scale integration, that is called as the large scale integration. That means when it is possible to integrate over 30,000 electronic components on single chips. See, here only 10 to 20 components are integrated in one chip, that is called as small scale integration in second generation. 100 components, that is called as medium scale integration. When it is doubled in fourth generation, when you integrate over 30,000 electronic components on single chip, that is called as large scale integration, that is called as LSI. Okay, large scale integration in fourth generation, because this is get faster. Okay, and after that, when it is possible to integrate about 1 million, see, listen carefully, observe. Okay, 1 million electronic. Will you count 1 million? No. Okay, in 1 million electronic components are added in one single chip. That is called as very large scale integration, VLSI, very large scale integration. Over up to 30,000, that is called as LSI, large scale integration. Up to 1 million, very large scale integration. Okay, this process is lead to develop a microprocessor. The whatever these two process, based on these two process, they are used to develop the microprocessor. What do you mean by microprocessor? The microprocessor is an electronic component. This is one electronic components that is used by a computer to do its work. It is a central processing unit. We can say the microprocessor is a central processing unit, CPU. On a single integrated circuit, chips containing million of very small components. That microprocessor that contains the million of very small components, including transistor, resistors and diodes also, they are used that work together. And hardware, you know already, IC with very large scale integration, they are used. Semiconductor memory, magnetic tapes and floppy disks, they are used. Okay, features. So it can support multiprocessing and distributed operating system. Multiprocessing means it can process simultaneously two or more processes. Okay, object oriented high level programming language they are support. It is very small and it is very easy to use. Handheld computers have evolved in that fourth generation. In that year, the tab they are used. no external cooling required, and affordable. See, for example, in first generation, when it is get heat, they are used the cooling system, air cooler, for to cool the vacuum tubes. But here there is no air cooler required in this generation. This generation saw the development of networks and internet. In this generation, they are used the network system. Okay, so this is what the fourth generation. In this generation, they are used graphical user interface, and also they are used mouse. Okay, already you know mouse. Okay, you can change the cursor wherever you want. Memory is 100 million bits, like MB, terabytes, GB. They are used in these computers. Data inputs, they are used devices like keyboards and mouse. Okay, so these are the examples of fourth generation: Apple II, VAX 9000, CRA1 supercomputer. They are used fourth generation. This is all about fourth generation. See, these are the computers examples for the fourth generation. See, these are the microprocessor. The example of the AMD microprocessor. So many different types of microprocessors are there. In one microprocessor, we can add the very small, the very 100 millions of components we can add the in one microprocessor, right? So this is a fourth generation computer. So we are nowadays also we are using fourth generation. This is also fourth generation computer. This is fourth. See, this is microprocessor, how it looks. This is microprocessor, how it looks. Okay, I hope this is clear to you. And now come to the fifth generation. Okay, come to the fifth generation. What is the fifth generation? These are the modern and advanced computers. Significant change in the components and operations have made fifth generation computers handy and more reliable than the previous generation. Okay. So in this generation, they are using modern technology, advanced technology like robotics, artificial intelligence. They are used in fifth generation. That is year from 1989 to present. Right? You know already robot film, how robots are automatically worked based on the fifth generation technology. Okay. So here they are using hardware components like VSLI. Okay. VSLI, that means ultra large scale integration technology. They are used in fifth generation. That technology resulting in producing of microprocessor chips having 10 million electronic components. In this processor VSLI, we can add the very small components, different components like 10 millions of components we can add in this microprocessor. Okay. Now what are the hardware technology? They are using VSLI and nanotechnology, ray technology, that is in hard disk with ray technology, powerful servers, internet, cluster computing. They are used. Features: this is very powerful, very cheap, reliable, and easy to use. You know already. It is compared to previous generation up to third generation. This is very fast and very cheap, and it is very efficient to work, and it is easy to use. Okay, it is portable. You can use anywhere. You can carry anywhere. It is portable and faster due to use parallel processor. In this computer, you can use more than one processor. Okay, that is called as the super large scale integrated circuits. Okay, so this is fifth generation. Memory is unlimited. Capacity of the memory is fifth generation is unlimited. Okay, data is how you are providing the data using CD, pen drive, data cable. Through that input devices, you can use the provide the data. Examples is IBM computers, Pentium, and Param. Param is a supercomputers. Okay, this is called as the computer generations. Okay, I hope this is clear to you. There are 5 generations in computer: first generation, second generation, third, fourth, fifth. In first generation, they are using vacuum tubes. Second generation, transistor. Third generation, integrated chips, and fourth, ultra integrated chips, and fifth, the supercomputer. Okay, so this is called as the computer generation. I hope this is clear to you. Thank you.